Well, good day, folks. This is Eric Rollins, the Constitutionalist, coming to you live from the podcast layer. Today, I am joined by somebody that I believe in, somebody that I think has some solutions for California. I hope he can catch fire. I think this guy brings a lot of the solutions and a lot of the common sense that California needs. He is running for California governor. I am joined by Leo Zacky. Welcome.
Thanks, Eric. It's glad to be back with you guys.
So, just a little history. Obviously, we know your district, which is all of California, which is a hard one to cover.
Yeah.
But why'd you choose to do this, and a little bit of family history?
Sure. Well, there's a whole bunch of things leading up to this. So, my family had Zacky Farms. It was the largest poultry producer on the West Coast, largest privately owned employer in the state of California. And we got ran out of business by the state's policies and the unfair business practices that are imposed on businesses here in California. And after 90 years and building my whole life around that, it was devastating. And while I was a part of the business, I was a board member for the California Poultry Federation. So I'd go to DC and Sacramento and meet with the bureaucrats like the FDA, the EPA, the USDA, and the senators and the congressmen, and go to Sacramento and meet the state reps and the state senators. And I quickly learned that these people are really stupid and don't care about you or your business or your family or your livelihood. And it was a big wake-up call, especially seeing that at such an early age, because I shadowed my grandmother when I was 15. I became an official board member at 18. And then when I left college, when I was 20, I was that's when I joined the family business. And it all just was just a shock to the system. And then Trump getting elected in 2016 broke the concept that you had to be a politician to be a politician, which I loved. And then the 2020 election happened. And from what I saw, and I'm sure you agree, that it was the most fraudulent thing we ever witnessed.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure history will undeniably show that. And I said, you know what? Screw it. I've got nothing left to lose but my life and my freedom at this point. And nobody's coming to save us.
No,
and
we got to save
I need
ourselves.
to do something about this. Yeah. And I don't trust anybody out there. I mean, I've met these people. Like, if I felt there was a better person, trust me, I would not do this. Just like everybody else out there watching, like you're probably sane enough to say that's too crazy. And I agree, it is crazy. But what's crazy is standing by for me and watching everything fall apart. And so being a fourth generation Californian, having an ag business background, being in manufacturing and in all sorts of different industries, and having these political experiences, I developed plans for California to help turn this place around that are just rooted in common sense to actually help everybody, not just this political party stuff. And I'm so sick of the left and right game that they make us fight each other with. It's time to end all that. And we have to focus on being one team united, and that's Team California, to make this state successful and functional, affordable, and for everybody.
Well, we definitely need that. Here in the Central Valley, our ultimate renewable resource is farming. And yet the state of California seems to be working against farming. Reason I'm bringing up farming is it is just so absolutely essential to the entire heart of California. And it's a resource that doesn't run out. What would you do differently? How would you approach farming differently from a legislative side? What do we need?
Well, we need water, and we need to deregulate, and we need to have an environment here where we can actually have our farmers earn, keep the money that they earn, but put them in a position where they can actually be competitive in the global market. I mean, California is responsible for so many products. We lead the world in avocados, almonds, artichokes, and strawberries. We lead the nation in over 25 different products. Mm-hmm. And if we're going to be able to have our farmers stay in business, they need to be able to compete with the rest of the world and the rest of the nation at a price point. And so when you have taxes that are through the roof, when you have illegal immigration that is keeping Americans and Californian workers from being able to get employed, insurance policies that are extremely high, it's everything that's cost prohibitive. We need to deregulate. And having that abundance of water will allow the farmers to grow the crops in mass to bring the cost per unit down, which then puts us at a better competitive price point as well. And I want to have small independent farmers like we've always had here in California. But what's happening is that they're being choked out, and then they're forced to sell their land that they've had for 5, 6, 7 generations, and then a big conglomerate comes in, rips out the crops that they're growing, and all they do is they just take that water allocation and use it elsewhere.
We have a lot of land that's not being used.
It breaks my heart. I mean, I drive up and down the 99 all the time, and I've been doing it for years. And when I see uprooted trees, it breaks my heart because I know that it's not a light switch. And I think that's the biggest misconception that so many people don't understand with food is that a lot of these plants, to be able to produce the crops and that we want, we have to, it takes 5, 7, sometimes even 11 years for the plants to mature to even begin to produce. So when you rip these trees out, you're talking about a very long process that you have to then restart to get it going again. It's not just on and off. I mean, all the things that we produce here in California, it's essential to the country to feed the nation, but even more so for the world. I mean, it's the whole reason that the state is the world's 5th largest economy.
Oh, absolutely. And we produce something like 60% of the produce for the nation, plus we still have enough extra produce to ship to the world.
Yep.
I mean, that's a huge deal, and we do it with more regulation and higher labor costs, which is truly a testament to how strong our farmers are, and yet all we're doing is making their life difficult. And we don't have to.
Yeah, we just don't let them do what they need to do, and we take the money from them. So, everybody who's in business still, it takes a lot. But also look at all the megacorps that are keeping a lot of this going too, and you see the shrinking of that independent individual farmer.
Yeah. Well, strangely enough, the new independent groups of farmers are Hispanics and East Indians. Mm-hmm. They've decided they want to jump in. Otherwise, those generational farmers, here in the Central Valley, there were an awful lot of Japanese, an awful lot of whites. And they're going, I can't make it. Now, I don't know why culturally they're choosing that. Also, the Hmong here in the Central Valley, a lot of them have chosen to be farmers. But I'm glad that somebody's choosing and picking up the banner there. It doesn't matter so much what culture they're from to me. It's just interesting to look at.
Right.
How do we get more water? Because clearly we've had a cycle of boom and bust. We'll have a good two years of water out of 10, maybe 3 that are okay. And the balance would be not such good water years. What do we do?
Well, we have those cycles of the El Niños and the La Niñas, the wetter years and the drier years. But what we're not doing is actually building out more reservoirs. We're not building the infrastructure to harness more of this. We're not going and building the desalination on the coast to take the pressure off the inland reserves. And we're still dumping nearly 1 trillion gallons of fresh water into the sea every year. And don't forget, Gavin Newsom and his environmental, tirade has destroyed dams on the Klamath River. I mean, essential water storage in Northern California and hydroelectric generation. We have to build the infrastructure. The rains will come. The snow does fall. But when we have farmers being penalized for tapping into flood control options like the Merced bypass, how are we helping the farmers? Why aren't we directing that to recharge the groundwater? Why aren't we building the reservoirs? Why aren't we damming up canyons in the Sierra Nevada to harness that snowpack? Because it's a supply and demand issue. Because the state knows what the estimated water demand is going to be. And so if you can artificially lower the supply to at, near, or below the demand levels, you can charge a premium. Mm-hmm. It's all about gouging the people. This is about money. And they have left the people behind. If we're going to be supplying the most foundational building block of life, I believe we should. I would love for us to have free water. I mean, yes, I get that there's a little bit of cost into these things, but as close to free and minimal charge as possible is what we should be emphasizing and making that our goal for everybody when it comes to water.
Cheap and abundant. If I just don't want to completely cross the line to free, because when something's free, people tend to just take it for granted. So
yes,
cheap and
that's
abundant.
why I'm saying that there's as close to a minimal cost as possible. But that should be the emphasis. Like everybody who's in these water organizations and responsible for the water here in the state should be fixated on that goal. on how to create that abundance and how to have it at the lowest possible price.
Yeah.
That should be everything that every day they come to work. That should be what they should be focused on.
Yet we haven't had leadership that actually wanted to fix the water problem. They wanted to play
Well, because
games
there's
with the
too much money in it.
environmentalists. Yeah. Well, they play games with the environmentalist and all the meanwhile keep shuffling money into somebody's pocket. Another big problem with water is so much of that water is mandated to go through the Delta because they have not built good enough facilities to treat their water. There are several cities sitting on the Delta that put out partially treated sewage. And so because they've got to, by law, have to keep the Delta a certain amount clean,
They have to flush it out.
they have to flush it out. We got to fix that. That's a big expensive one, and that's several cities.
Yeah, but look at all the growth that we've had in the metropolitan areas. I mean, a lot of people are leaving the rural counties and they're coming into the cities, and the cities have been booming, but we haven't been keeping up with that. And I've been watching a lot of stuff on New York and how that city's grown and how they deal with their sewage problems. And they do have sewage problems, but these are all, baseline things that need to be taken care of. We do need to have proper sewage treatment, and we need to have, but when you have environmental regulatory bodies like CEQA and the Coastal Commission that prevent the actual building of these facilities, we're only handcuffing ourselves and causing other problems upstream from there.
Well, and the good news is if you were elected governor, you're the person that appoints to those boards. So
Yeah,
they would
well-
have a very different perspective, I'm thinking.
Oh yeah, no, completely different. I mean, this is outrageous because they so fixate on this environmental nonsense. And don't get me wrong, I care about the environment. I believe we need to be good custodians of it. But when you let these emotional constructs impede the grand plan, and you fixate on one thing like, oh, a horned toad or a quail that's nesting in this area, or the smelt, and you ignore humans and our need to function as a society, you're hurting us in a much broader perspective. I mean, look what happened with the fires, right? All this stuff with PG&E, when the environmental regulatory bodies block the upgrading of the power lines to metal poles that are far more sturdy, and upgrading the lines because they don't want the construction teams going in there and trampling these sacred plants. Well, where are those plants now? They're ash because you didn't allow the upgrade to take place that would have prevented the fire that burned it down. And so it's short-sighted ignorance from an emotional place that is hurting us more than anything, because we can be good custodians of the environment, and we can have it all. That's the thing. We can have good sewage facilities, and we can have efficient water, effective and abundant water collection and storage. We can have all these things. But we have to drop the emotional concept and focus on building forward with the technology to set us up for success.
Yeah. Another agricultural issue is they basically forced all farmers to go to drip. Now, drip is a highly efficient way of using water, but at the same time, it never percolates down into the aquifer.
Right.
So we don't replenish our aquifers. And I know of several districts during this last big rain, it's been a year and a half or so, that they wanted to charge farmers to flood irrigate water that they didn't even know what to do with. There were farmers that would be like, sure, I'll flood my field because this crop can take it or these trees can take it, but you want to charge me for water that you don't even know what to do with.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But look how our rice farmers have been hurt too. I mean, because that's how you do rice farming, is by flooding the fields. And so when you cut back on the water, these rice farmers can't even produce. And then all of a sudden you have this excess, and there's this I don't know moment. And it's how can you not see the short term and long term impacts missing each other at every step of the way? Obviously, we need to recharge the aquifers. Why wouldn't you just direct it there? But again, that would be having capable, competent people in these positions. And that's what we're missing, is that leadership, that know-how, that understanding. I don't think any of these people that are high up have ever actually had that working with the land experience.
Sadly, no. Now, I don't want to run out of time, so I'm going to go ahead and switch gears. What do we do about crime? Prop 36 got passed, but it wasn't funded.
Right. Well, you fund it, number one. I mean, that's the thing. We have great laws on the books, but if we're not funding them and we're not enforcing them, then what good are they? And
Yeah.
this is, again, this is a leadership issue, and we need to have strict enforcement. I'm a fan of the three strikes law. I mean, when I hear about criminals that are being picked up after killing somebody after having, dozens of felonies, I mean,
That's insanity. Okay, you froze there for a second. That's insanity.
yeah.
There
It
we go.
is
You're back.
like the fact that we have these constant repeat offenders. You keep, not you, but the legislature, they keep changing the definition of what a violent offense is. I mean, the fact that if you rape somebody when they're sober, that's a violent offense. But if you drug somebody and you rape them when they're passed out, that's no longer a violent offense in Gavin Newsom's world.
Yeah, that's
I mean,
insane.
it's this constant revisionist and lessening and lightening, and for what? Because somehow we have to drop this. I want to get away from the whole like this country's racist, white people are racist. All this whole racist conversation needs to die already. Okay, we're Americans and we're here, and we have people that are being killed in the street. Doesn't matter what color you are. Okay, we need to have serious consequences for repeat offenders. If you're going to be a violent youth and you're going to carry that over into your years and you're going to rack up felonies, you need to be in jail and off the streets and out of our society because there's no place for that.
Right. Well,
So
we can't have a
enforcement needs to
prosperous.
happen.
Sorry, I didn't mean to jump on you. We can't have a prosperous community if it's not a safe community.
Correct. But we can have there's rampant random violence, which is crazy to me. But if you want to prevent like the other baseline criminality, like shoplifting and theft and stuff like that, you have to have a strong economy more than anything. You have to have a strong economy and you have to have a good education system because when those two combine, you get employment. And when people have employment and can actually have meaningful income and they can actually retain that money because they're not being taxed into oblivion and their utility costs come down and their rent isn't sky high, then people don't feel compelled to go and commit crimes like that. Now, obviously, you have the criminally insane and these just violent people. They need to be locked up and off the streets.
Right. And a lot of those people are homeless. So I'm going to go ahead and use that as a segue. A lot of people feeling safe is whether they're homeless on the street or not. Homeless commit an awful lot of petty crime because a huge percentage of them are mentally ill and a huge percentage of them are on drugs. How do we address that?
Well, I developed the Homeless to Home program that does just that. You enforce your vagrancy laws and you don't put them in prison. You put them into a program that gets them help because they do have a mental health crisis and they probably have a drug habit and you need to provide treatment because what we're doing doesn't work.
So not housing first, but treatment first.
Right. Treatment first, but in a controlled environment where they don't have access to the outside world because I mean they did commit a crime, to be fair. It's vagrancy. So that gives us the standing to remove them. But instead of the punishment being jail, it's a rehab program where they also will learn a job skill. And those job skills will be doing the things that the state needs, like basic construction, helping build out our reservoirs, and sanitation, cleaning up our streets and our highways and our tourist attractions, and raising crops and learning how to be in agriculture and gleaning our forests and doing backburning and basic firefighting. And so all these things will help offset the expenses of their treatment. You have them in small, tiny homes that they pay rent on, that it gets deducted from their income. They get minimum wage through the whole process when they're doing work. You help rebuild their self-esteem. You get them off drugs. They then have a bank account that grows. They then are eligible for government-assisted housing. And anybody who hires them coming out of the program gets a tax incentive for doing so. So the whole Homeless to Home program helps get people back on their feet, clean and sober, and ready to return to society. I mean, and setting people up where you'd have, money stockpiled in a bank account, that's pretty good. I mean, that's better than most kids get leaving home to go to, go out in the real world.
So you're talking hand up rather than a handout, because
Yes.
we've got a situation where we've spent literally billions, somewhere in the $30 billion range, on homeless in the last few years, and all we've done is not just perpetuate the problem, but increase
Expanded
the.
it.
Yeah, we expanded it.
Yeah, we have 50% more homeless than we did now than we did before this massive capital injection. And it's one thing that Gavin Newsom's been talking about, helping the homeless since what, he was a mayor in San Francisco?
No, before that, when he was a councilman in San Francisco, he
Yeah.
was a council member for 8 years before he was mayor for 8 years.
I mean, he's a legacy politician. So and eight. That's 24, 36,
32.
32, excuse me. 32 years
Yeah.
this guy has been in California politics talking about homelessness. And it's only gotten worse. But there's no real plan.
Yeah.
It's just housing, housing first. And then they use that metric to say, look at the success we've done. And they pat themselves on the back and say, all right, let's put more money at it. But again, there's more money laundering right there, right? We've seen all the flaws. We have to find a way. Not that we have to find a way. What we have to do is just have oversight on this. We need transparency. And that's why I want to make sure that everything that California does, not just the state, but at the local level too, all the transactions, all their budgets are available online for people to just easily access through an updated website with an AI interacting tool, LLM like a Grok or a Chat GPT that could just pull it up and show anybody what they want to see, because there are no nuclear secrets here.
Right. So basically, we need to provide transparency through technology. And I would say we probably need to actually have a Doge type audit of California.
Oh, without question. I mean, the people that have put us in this mess need to be held responsible, accountable, and need to face judgment and punishment for it. Because if we don't have consequences, all it does is show that you can get away with this behavior. That has to stop.
Yeah. Well, homelessness is a tough one, but I think if we begin to chip away at that, our petty crime goes away. Maybe not entirely, but a large portion of it. You don't have the environmental mess. You know, we have a problem with bubonic plague in parts of Southern California.
Yeah, I mean
That's
these
insane.
they're Victorian era and Renaissance era diseases that are making a comeback because of the squalor that people are exuding from the homelessness.
Well, really, it's just we've now had almost 2 generations of no accountability, one party rule. I don't know that Republicans are always perfect. Well, I'm
Certainly not.
positive we're not always perfect. I'm a Republican nonetheless. We're not perfect. I do believe it's the place where there's common sense right now.
I agree.
So shifting gears once again, you mentioned insurance and our insurance rates. What could the governor do to deal with what's happened with the explosion in rates?
Well, we have to do a better job of taking care of the state. I mean, the whole reason that the insurance companies need to charge more is because we do such a abysmal job of mitigating the disasters. Now, you can't prevent an earthquake and you can't prevent a hurricane, but you can certainly prevent and mitigate wildfires. And that's where we've been seeing the massive waves of destruction throughout the state. The most recent disasters that have hurt the state are those wildfires more than anything. And so with forest management, by bringing in logging companies to glean the forest, not clear cut, but glean and eradicate the bark beetle here in California, getting the inmate population to work, getting the homeless population to work, and actually taking care of our wildlands, we can mitigate the devastating effects of these wildfires, and also properly funding CAL FIRE as well and having water resources available. It all adds up. And so that then lowers the occurrences and severity of these disasters, which means the insurance companies then don't need to charge as much, but we also have to lift the cap on the rates because we have an insurance commissioner here in the state. So working with the insurance commissioner, we have to lift the rates to allow people to be insured, because right now a lot of people we just saw here in Los Angeles lost their homes, and they were right before that their coverage got dropped at a very inconvenient time, and then they lose their home. And if you weren't in the CalPERS program, which only covers up to $3 million, and a lot of these homes and the valuables inside of them are worth well more than that, you were SOL.
Yeah. Well, in Southern California, a $3 million home is not as big a deal as it would be here in the Central Valley. It's
Oh, I
not.
mean,
We're not necessarily talking about this huge plush mansion,
right.
just
Like
because
maybe a
everything
home
is so
that's-
expensive down there.
Oh yeah. I mean, you're paying for the neighborhood, the school district, the view. You know, that's what all comes. And everybody wants to be in LA, right? So, but you have to allow these insurance companies to be in business, because if they had to drop the coverage, because with the devastation that's taking place all the time, they would go bankrupt if they didn't pull their coverage.
Right.
And it's not their responsibility to hold the bag on our
Incompetence.
misuse. Yeah, and exactly our incompetence. And they're a they're an enterprise. They have to make money,
Right.
but they're not. But they're not taking advantage of us. It's the state that's screwing the people over,
Well,
and that's the miscommunication.
The Coastal Commission, CARB, and environmental groups are largely saying, well, no, the way forests should be managed is they should just be completely forgotten about.
Which is insane, because the Native Americans who lived here long before we got here, they did their own underbrush clearing and back burning. They knew how to work with the land, but it's a natural cycle. I mean, that's why, I mean, look at pine cones. Pine cones are the best way to understand how forests and wildlands actually regenerate. They need the fire to come and open up so their seeds can be launched out of the cones, and then have that fertile, new, ashy ground to grow in.
Right. So
It's the
basically, they need
cycle.
to be heated up so they pop open and now can regrow. It's part of
Yeah.
the cycle.
So even biology tells us this is a necessity.
Yeah. Well, the other
But
thing
they
is,
obviously don't agree with biology, and we've seen that in the social circumstances.
yeah, that it's a crazy world, but I think we're starting to see some of the end of wokeness. But they're not going to go without a fight, and common sense, if it doesn't prevail, we're in a world of hurt.
Correct.
It's not just that they're ignoring the lands. You realize Fresno County only has one firm that harvests lumber anymore. We used to have multiple. Throughout the state, there are very few lumber companies because they find that it's just too hard to fight through the regulation. That's a simple way to regulate the number of trees per acre. Because if we do nothing and then we have a devastating fire, all you have is a bunch of small trees. If you use controlled burn, instead of there being 1,000 trees per acre, you burn off the small trees in the underbrush. The big trees survive. Those big trees are healthier, so we don't have as much of a bark beetle problem. In addition, you don't have the problem of them sucking up as much water. 1,000 small trees suck up a lot more water than 200 large trees. So less water is making it to the valley because we're allowing overgrowth in a lot of the forests. Spent a lot of time on this one with people that's their specialty.
Yeah, I mean, and look, Fresno's the gateway to the south entrance of Yosemite, so you guys know it more than anybody how that actually impacts the Central Valley there. I mean, I've spent plenty of time in Yosemite. I've seen the control birds take place there. That's why those forests look so pristine and beautiful, because they're properly maintained. But that's the federal government, not the
Right.
state.
Right. On your way up, you see areas that are completely raised because they did not manage them, and then you get up into federal land and it's managed, and occasionally a fire gets out of control, but mostly it's really beautiful because they manage it.
Correct. And then if anybody does see clear cutting areas, that land was already allocated for clear cutting, or those trees were planted to be clear cut at a certain point. There's all this regenerative agriculture that takes place.
Absolutely. Okay, I don't want to stay on agriculture forever. If you get elected, who's your team? Who do you have for education, and who's your go-to person on homeless, that kind of thing? Because no one person can be an expert in all of this. So you have to have a team to be successful.
Yeah, Paul White he lives in Reno now. He would be my education guy for sure. He has experience working in LAUSD for 30 years. He took the worst kids and made them the best students through discipline, but also putting them in an environment where that allowed them to thrive. And so his proven track record and success in education would be someone I would turn to right away when it comes to that. I really believe in what he's done. When it comes to the homelessness issue, I mean, I want to work with, great organizations that have track records of success, but also partnering with people who also are looking at new ways of dealing with mental illness and how we can treat that and drug rehab programs. So finding a combination of them, like maybe getting some people from the Midnight Mission and people from, known rehab centers and bringing in experts in fields of psychology. That's how I think we're going to really be able to deal with the homeless crisis.
Okay. What do we do about this ballot initiative for voter ID?
We'll sign it and get it on the ballot for a start. We have to get, we have to get those signatures, and we have to get it on the ballot. I mean, it's our voice, but more importantly than anything, what we just saw with Prop 50 is how easily people are misled with misinformation. So we need to get our marketing campaign locked in to make sure that we can send a message to everybody in California, educating them on what this will be.
Yeah.
Why it's so important. I mean, like, they brought Barack Obama in, and they had that one commercial where they had like a Trump sitting in an armchair with like spilling McDonald's everywhere and throwing a Diet Coke at the screen. That kind of marketing is what swayed people to vote. Because if you look at the exit polls, when people are asked, do you think that it should be an independent commission that does the districting or legislature? 7% said legislature, 92% said independent districting commission.
Yep.
But guess what? That's exactly what they voted against.
It's like they voted against their own self-interest because they were so Trump deranged. Also,
right.
Republicans didn't show up.
That is the big issue. Well, our state party has no money because nobody believes in the party, and rightfully so. They're losers. Mm-hmm. They've made a track record of not winning. They don't fund the candidates, and it's a boys' club. And if you're not in it, you're out of it. Mm-hmm. And they only want to keep the people that they think they can help raise them the money. But people aren't buying that anymore.
I've been a delegate the last 2 years, and I'm generally very happy with the convention until we get to the last day and we're in to vote. And I watch what happens.
Shenanigans happen.
Exactly. This last time, for me, it's one person, one vote, and we tried to overtake and get rid of proxies, meaning somebody else can carry a vote for you. I think it's one person, one vote. Ironically, I was carrying a proxy and voted to get rid of proxies. But it's one of those things where they decided that if anything was close, no, you have to go with the recommendation of the party, meaning you needed a 2/3 vote, not 51%.
Of course.
I couldn't believe the games that were played there.
Well, they keep changing and suspending the bylaws in these voting scenarios too. I mean, I've been there to see that. Mm-hmm. I mean, the party. Excuse me.
Yeah, the party is not as responsive as I think we should be.
Right, and there are people that are preventing folks from actually doing their jobs. I mean, I think we have a great treasurer. Jack Guerrero wants to do his job.
Right.
But but he's an outsider, right? And they didn't want Jack Guerrero.
No, it was very clear they didn't want.
And so they're handcuffing him at every turn when it comes to actually doing his job. And so, it's clear. We know how it's all playing out. And I'm very disappointed with the party. And it's just been hijacked by lobbyists and interest groups and people who are just mad with power, because if they didn't have these jobs or positions, they wouldn't have the the luxuries of having, access to Trump and all these Republican events. And, that's all they have in life. It's kind of pathetic, to be honest.
Yes, and they treat the Christian conservative as if they're nuts.
Right. Which is also pretty insulting considering, the Republican Party is all based on the Christian values.
Right.
Right. And they just spit in our face because it's not financially prudent for them.
It's like they've decided that they're better off to be the second place party because they want to maintain what power they've got.
Correct.
They're not the people that are ever going to upend the apple cart, or they're not the people that are going to have a bold vision. They just paint in pale pastels.
Well, they just found something that works and makes them money, gives them a semblance of power. And I mean, that's the thing, but that's something I've learned in business, right? Is there's two kinds of people. There are people that care more about the job title, and there are people that care more about the pay. I'm someone that cares more about the pay, which is the results.
Yeah.
You can promote somebody 1,000 times and not give them a promotion, not give them a raise, and they'd be happy. And then there's people that you could say, give me the same job, just give me a raise every year, and I'll be happy.
Yeah. Well, it just depends on why you're doing something. So when you have a tough decision, what process do you go through? Like, you're not sure what to do. What do you do?
Well, I usually talk to my grandma about things because she's got a lot of wisdom.
I hope I get to meet her someday. Seems like a neat lady.
Yeah, she's amazing. I definitely, I ask her, I ask the people that I trust that have, the same sort of mindset that I have. And then, I really think about things. We have to, because you have to plan it out, right? Because especially if it's a really big decision, right? You have to look not just at the immediate result. You have to look, how is this going to play out down the line? What are the reactions to whatever decision I make going to be in the immediate future? And then how do you war game that out? So you really have to contemplate on things when it comes to really big decisions. And seeing that, having that ability to, because look, when you go to battle, like all the war plans go out the window, right? But if you can have some semblance of a direction that things could go, and you can start to at least prepare and anticipate for the next move, it's like playing chess, right? You're not just focused on this move. You have to be plotting things out, 3-4 turns in advance.
Okay. Why are you hopeful? Because look, California's a mess. We can talk about being the fifth largest economy, but we have the highest unemployment, the highest energy costs, the most homeless per capita, the most regulation. We can go through a long list. So why are you hopeful?
Because I believe in people. I believe that people are inherently good, and that it's just so broken. And when I talk with Democrats or people on the left, and I don't let them know my party affiliation, it's very easy when you don't put that first, because people are emotional and they have these barriers. When you just start talking about these subjects and you leave out the party lines and you just talk about the issues, and you find out that so many people have the same problem, and that your solution and your response to it is actually a lot more in common than they would think otherwise. And so people are ready for change. Everything's broken. They know that they're living in an unaffordable place, and it's not working. And they are motivated to see change. It's just, can we actually put the right person forward that will represent all the people, not just a party, not just an organization of elites that want to continue to stay in power, or self-serving individuals? Can we actually get a person for the people, of the people, and by the people into office to lead by example? And I'm here to be that person. And I really believe that I can make a difference, and I know I can resonate and reach out to people. It's just the hard part's breaking through the artificial barriers set up by the elite class that wants to keep the power that they're holding on to, the old guard, if you will.
Absolutely. My producer would love to ask you a question.
Hit me.
All right. Hey, thank you for being here on the show. I love what I'm hearing. I'm excited about where you stand on a lot of the issues. And I'm just curious, California is part of where California goes, so does the nation, the saying goes, right? And here in California, it's big in size and economy, but nationally, there's a lot of bases here. There's and the country really depends here on California. But what do you say? Can you speak a little bit to the military and the security part of the issues? We see China buying land everywhere near bases, stealing tech left and right. What can California do to kind of push back and against that and strengthen our? What do you do nationally? How do you approach that?
Well, you have to work with the federal government, and you need to make an emphasis on going after foreign entities that are operating here in the United States. I don't believe that foreign governments and people that aren't U.S. citizens should be allowed to purchase and own property here in this country. It's very hard to do in other countries. If you can't, in most places, you can't even do that. So why should everybody be able to come here and do that? We have to make sure we have a secure border, and we have to go after the cartels. But even more so, China, when they're operating known secret police stations throughout the country, we know that this is occurring, and if we know that this is happening, why aren't we going and enforcing on this? Why should China have carte blanche to be able to basically turn their citizens into spies in our own country? And then when you have horrible things like these makeshift biolabs that China's funding right here in our own backyard in the Central Valley,
Yep.
What could happen? Look what just happened in Wuhan, a level 4 biosecurity lab. They had a leak, and you tell me this makeshift biolab that's being run by China could not possibly have a leak or be there to do something nefarious? These things need to be cracked down on. But we have to use enforcement. I want to work with the federal government. I want to use our local police to go after these leads. And there should be no safe harbor for organized crime syndicates, especially international ones here in California. And I don't know if I can label as governor entities terrorist organizations, but I'd like them to be all treated as such.
Thanks, sir.
I imagine you could request that from the federal government and make your case. And with this current administration, you would have a shot.
Yeah, that's the thing. The best thing I can do, if I can't do it, I can be the biggest advocate for it.
We're down to just about a minute and a half. If people want to know more about you, where do they go?
Go to my website, leozacky.com. Go to my Instagram and X and TikTok at Leo S. Zacky, Leo, the letter S, Z-A-C-K-Y. We're posting stuff on there all the time. I've got a lot of great content. And get involved. We would love to have you as a volunteer. If you want to host, reach out. The contact information is all on the website. I'm trying to help the people of California, and it's up to you guys. You can continue the same, do what the party says and lose, or get another rhino into office, or you can have somebody who's salt of the earth, a real Californian with a real vision forward for everybody that's trying to unite people into fixing this state. I'm here for you. I'd love to earn your support.
We got about 30 seconds. Final thoughts.
It's our home. You don't need to live this way. Things can be better. These are man-made problems. They require man-made solutions. The power is yours.
Amen, brother. Hey, Leo, I thank you for this time. This is Eric Rollins, the Constitutionalist, coming to you from the podcast layer. Hope to see you soon. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. leozacky.com. Thank you, Leo.
Thanks, Eric.